Welcome to another edition of Down the Road. We've got a lot to get to today. We're going to talk about the Supreme Court. What a shock. We're going to talk about what's going on with the hearing of Judge Thomas. We're going to get a chance to talk about, or not the Judge Thomas, but Judge Brown Jackson and her hearing that's going on. Obviously, the Supreme Court, I'm already ahead on that one. I'm going to talk about Clarence Thomas and his wife, Jenny. We're going to talk about some comments that were made on this very network in relation to the aggressor when it comes to Ukraine. So we're going to go down that road as well. Derek Falvey's going to join us. He's the head of baseball operations. He's the president when it comes to the Minnesota Twins. Everybody's looking to that baseball season. And Professor Thomas Ambrosio is going to join us as well. You know, they had a group get together of Ukrainian students at NDSU and talk about what was going on with that war, what their thoughts were. And of course, the professor's been good enough to give us time before, and we called him up, and he's going to give us some more today. He is, well, quite frankly, an expert when it comes to issues like this. But let's begin here. Let's begin with the hearing that is involving Judge Brown Jackson, a woman that has been approved by federal appointment through the United States Senate already. You've got a situation that you've got a hearing going on for the Supreme Court. And I'm not going to try to pretend that Democrats haven't been aggressive in the past when it comes to questioning Republican nominees. I'm not going to pretend that in watching some of those hearings, I didn't cringe a little bit when it comes to Democrats going after, in some cases, Republican nominees. That's not the point of what I'm going to show you. The point of what I'm going to show you is the point of common sense, the points of the separation of the branches of government. And so I think you're going to see what I'm getting at. So let's do it by clips first. Let's do it by what you have access to, but some of you were out working, and so you can't sit there and watch the whole hearing, right? Ketanji Brown Jackson is qualified. Now, the President of the United States said he was going to appoint a black woman to the Supreme Court. He said that during the campaign, so you knew he was going to do that. Some of you didn't like it. You didn't like that he said exactly who he was by color and by gender, who he was going to appoint. Seems as though there hasn't been a black woman on the Supreme Court. Not all of us didn't like it. I liked it. I liked the fact that black women were going to be represented on the highest court in the land. Well, President Biden has nominated her. Now, understand this as well. She will be on the Supreme Court. She will be. The votes are there on the Democratic side, and I think there's going to be some crossover Republicans that don't want to go down in history having voted against the first black woman on the Supreme Court. But that doesn't mean they're not going to go after her. That doesn't. Senator Blackburn out of, I believe it's Tennessee, because one of the big things that they've been making the case on is some of the sentencing when it comes to child pornography. They're trying to portray her as weak on sentencing when it comes to child pornography. And they're going to make some points here in these hearings that I think you need to pay attention to. Senator Blackburn wanted to know. She wanted documents opened up. In fact, she questioned the chairman of the committee, Senator Durbin, out of Illinois. And let's get a flavor of what she asked him.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Chairman, before I want to ask you, some of us have wanted those pre-sentencing memos. Are we going to be able to have access to those memos? I know we sent a letter to you. Where do we stand?
Well, we've consulted with prosecutors and with victims' rights organizations, and they share my concern. This is very confidential, sensitive information, which is usually only seen by a judge, and to run the risk of bringing it to this committee and jeopardizing or worse, innocent...
Is there no way we can...
I'd like to finish.
Okay.
Jeopardizing or worse, innocent third parties, our children who have been victimized. I'm sorry, Senator, I'm not going to be party to that. I would not want that on my conscience. that we did this for some political exercise here, which I think is totally unnecessary, and someone was harmed as a result of it. I'm going to resist it every step of the way.
So much of what she's asking for is public record anyway. You can go to your local newspaper or your local broadcasters and find out what these individuals were accused of, what they were convicted of. But by making this information and bringing it into the public spotlight, Senator Durbin is spot on right. He's spot on right. Subjecting and victimizing these children all over again, and making it put out there on a national scale in many cases, what happened to them is abusive. It's abusive. Now, granted, the narrative is put in place by Senator Blackburn because that's the seed she wants to plant. She knew she wasn't going to get those records. She knew she shouldn't get those records. But it all comes down to how many times you can say child pornography. How many times can I say child pornography in relation to Judge Brown Jackson? Because if you link those two together and you say, my God, she is weak on it, rather than thinking about the sentencing guidelines, which are a policy issue, right? Understand this, and you're going to get to a little of that later, that decisions on these things come down through the very chair that Senator Blackburn is sitting in. But it's all about labeling. It's all about branding. And so when it came to that, Senator Hero from Hawaii had some questions. Now, these questions come in relation to somebody I know very well. Judge Ralph Erickson is a man that was appointed to the federal bench as a district judge some years ago. I actually sat in his courtroom, visited with him in his chamber, watched him swear in a number of new Americans. It was a great day for me. Senator Ralph Erickson, Republican appointee, very conservative, is a good man. He's a good man. But if you're going to make the point about sentencing when it comes to child pornography, and if that's the argument that Blackburn and the rest of these are going to make, if that's the only thing they think they can dig up, and they want America to be confused about sentencing guidelines policy, then just keep saying it over and over again. Well, the good senator from Hawaii made that point quite well when it comes to Judge Ralph Erickson. Take a view of this.
See, there was an article recently that highlighted the fact that many of President Trump's circuit court nominees who were previously district court judges had also issued below guideline sentencing to child pornography cases. Judge Ralph Erickson, who was confirmed to the Eighth Circuit in 2017 with support from every Republican member of this committee, who was serving in the Senate at the time, and there are at least 11 cases where he sentenced people to below guideline sentences. Does that surprise you?
It does not, Senator.
I'm not sure if you know Judge Erickson, but do you have any reason to believe he's soft on child pornography based on these sentences?
I don't have any reason to believe that.
Do you think my Republican colleagues are soft on child pornography just because they voted for Judge Erickson to become a federal appellate judge even after he issued these 11 sentences?
Senator, I'm not in a position to evaluate whether your colleagues are soft on crime because of their votes. I have no reason to believe that.
They voted for this person, but I think it would probably be quite unfair to characterize him as being soft on child pornography.
Senator Hirano wasn't speaking to Judge Brown Jackson there. That wasn't what she was doing. What she was doing was speaking to the very camera that you're watching right now. She wanted as many people as could possibly view it to understand the hypocrisy of what the Senate Republicans are doing, right? Here you've got Ralph Erickson being drugged through the mud. And you've got him being drugged through the mud because the Republicans voted unanimously for him to be on the Eighth Circuit. There's only one more jump after the Eighth Circuit, ladies and gentlemen. There really is. And so then you ask yourself, okay, is Judge Erickson weak on child pornography? I can tell you this, I don't believe he is. I don't believe that Judge Erickson ever would be. Now, there's another decision here. This is about policy. This is about branches of government. I want you to take a look at what Senator Cotton brings into the argument.
I asked a simple either-or question. Does the United States need more or fewer police?
Senator, the determination about whether there should be more or fewer police is a policy decision by another branch of government. It is not something that judges have control over, and I will stay in my lane in terms of the kinds of things that are properly in the judicial branch.
Is 17 years too long or not long enough for a criminal to spend in prison for murder?
Senator, these are policy questions, whether they're in the province of the Sentencing Commission in terms of recommendations, whether they are in Congress. They're not the kinds of things that I can opine about.
Do you think 7.2 months is too long or too short for someone convicted of rape to be sentenced to prison?
Senator, that's a policy question about the egregious crime of rape, and Congress has said that the court is supposed to take into account a number of factors when it sentences.
Okay.
I can't answer in the abstract.
Should the United States strengthen or weaken sentences for child pornographers?
Senator, that's not a simple question, and the reason is because what this country does in terms of penalties is in Congress's province. You all decide. You all decide what the penalties are. You decide what the factors are that judges use to sentence. If you determine that any set of penalties is insufficient, then it is in your purview to make that determination. Respectfully, I just wanted to remark on your previous question and your statement that these are not difficult questions. It's not that they're difficult questions, it's that they're not questions for me. I am not the Congress. I am not making policy around sentencing. My job is to look in a particular case and decide what the penalty should be within the range that Congress prescribes.
How many times do you think Senator Cotton in his campaigns and in his classroom when he was going to that Ivy League law school said you should not legislate from the bench? How many times have Republicans said that the court system should not legislate from the bench? Well, what he was just asking her was to legislate from the bench. The separations, if that's what it takes to get into Yale, Stanford, if that's what it takes, or Harvard, if that's what it takes to get into Yale or Harvard, one of those Ivy League schools, then it's pretty easy to get in if you don't know the separation, ladies and gentlemen, of government. If he doesn't like the sentences, fix it.